Hello, everybody, and welcome to our not so bi-weekly Devstream.
Never more bi-weekly.
Totally bi-weekly.
My name is Matt.
Basically
we
Dave.
should go through the roll call here, because
There's no one
been a
new.
lot-
There's no one new
a lot
watching.
has changed since our last Devstream. So, my name is Matt. This is Julian. Julian's actually not always on the streams, but he's here sometimes. This here is HB, and over here is Markfoot. So, we're here to talk about some new stuff coming to Foxhole. Devstream 100 is, we'll get into that a little bit later. But we had some special stuff planned, and we're going to talk about that. But I think there's been a lot of stuff to talk about in the last few months.
Yeah, I think some things have happened.
So I'm going to give it over to Mark here. Mark, let's talk about the state of the game.
Yeah, so the state of the game is that we are trying to execute on our post-winter army roadmap, but obviously there's a lot more players playing the game now than we had even anticipated. We knew Winter Army would be, it would bring back a lot of players, and it would be. We were expecting it to be kind of like arms race in terms of the level of the volume of players, but we've obviously seen a lot more than that, and we've had to support more than one shard to fit all the players into the game, which is something we didn't expect, honestly, until 1.0. But it's been good because it's kind of forced our hand to sort of to be able to solve some of the scaling problems now as opposed to later, right? So just to rewind time a bit, back about a month ago,
Back when things were easy.
when we obviously saw a huge influx in players, we actually spent an enormous amount of time and effort just trying to support all these players and make sure that the servers weren't falling apart. And there were some technical issues at certain points, but I think we were able to get a handle on it, and now we're able to very comfortably support the amount of players we have. And it looks like Shard 2 is going to be sticking around at least for the next while. We'll see how long Shard 2 is going to stay around for. We're happy to keep it up for as long as players are around to play in the second shard. We're happy to keep it around. But at some point, if we need to merge it, we can merge it. So that's sort of been the story for last month. Is just expending a lot of effort in managing the scale, but at the same time, the other half of it is we've also been working on a new update. We've also been working on the next huge update, which is going to be later this summer. It's still many months away. So we haven't been this busy. We're always busy, but this is like we went from a busy period to even busier in a weird way. So it's but it's all good. It's the good type of busy, because
It's a good problem to have.
It's a very good problem to have. So we're really excited, and we're going to be talking about some of the new features today. But before we do that, there are a couple of news items that we just kind of want to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, there's going to be no community highlights today.
Yeah. This is such a. As you guys notice, KFC is still Max is still out and about doing KFC things. So he wasn't around to do the community highlights, and we had a lot of stuff to go over on this dev stream. So this is so we're not gonna have community highlights this time. We're gonna go straight into talking about the future of the game. Right?
Yeah, I guess I'll get to it, Matt.
Yeah, go for it.
Go nuts.
Cool. So I guess the first thing is some changes to the format of this dev stream. Is that something, HB, you want to walk through?
Yeah, so the main thing that's going to happen is that Devstream is not going to happen now every 2 weeks. Obviously, you guys noticed that we've been crazy busy. So what we want to do is that we want to make sure that we do dev streams when we have a more substantial information regarding the game coming. Since we are gearing up for the 1.0 release and everything, and the amount of players, it turned out that it's a lot of work to do these live streams, even though it doesn't seem, because we're so laid back and but the reality is that it does take a lot of time. So we want to make sure that the dev streams are not just fluff. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna talk about this one episode. Like, no, we're gonna talk about like when we have more substantial news. So that's the dev streams are not gonna have a preset day. They're still gonna happen at 2 p.m. But we're gonna tell you in advance when. We're gonna try to tell you with enough advance time, or like hopefully 2 days more if possible. We're not gonna promise like we were. You saw how many we had to cancel, so I think it's gonna be actually better.
We don't like delaying things and then delaying them again and then delaying them again. That's not not fun. So having had that happen a couple times now, I think we don't want to. We want to just, if we're going to do it, then it will be announced. Otherwise, it's not going to be.
So the summary is that no longer on a regular basis, less frequent but more substantial streams is basically what to expect.
They might even be longer than normal in the future, depending on what it is. Because cool.
And community highlights is not gone. Community highlights is not gone. We might change the format, but we love the community. We love the stuff the community does, and I think it is cool for us to showcase some of the awesome stuff that people do. So no, I love community highlights. I will not let it die this easy.
And depending on your opinion of Max, you might end up seeing less of him. So that might be a good thing for some of the community. So
of Matt or Max?
Max.
Okay. Next one is I want to talk about if you're finished, HB.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I want to talk about the shards. So I was talking about this a little earlier. I made a post last week about what the plan is for supporting multiple shards. So we are planning on supporting profiles at the global level. So this is not going to happen in update 43, but in update 44, the plan is to have it so that your profile goes with you to whichever shard you're on. So we don't have to worry about players switching shards and losing progress and things of that sort. The other thing is that when we do, if and when, right? So there's two things there. If and when we merge the two shards that we have together, we will be taking the progress from all the shards and making sure that they are combined, so that we don't end up so that the progress that is earned on one shard will carry over into the other. And once that's happened, we in theory won't have to worry about this merging problem again, because the profile is just going to be shared, right? So that's that. The next thing is the update 43 rollout. So update 43 is just around the corner. We're going to be releasing the dev branch at some point in the coming days. So the plan is that we are going to be in dev branch probably a little longer than we're used to. We want to take the time to sort out more bugs. There will likely be, depending on how the wars go, there may be another war that is run on your shard before this update comes out. So it's not going to be that soon. Update 43 is not going to be so soon. Like, it's not going to come out like the end this week or something, right? So there will likely be another war, but if another war starts on either shard, it will probably end in we may have to shorten it by reducing the number of victory towns if the update rollout happens while war is in progress. But we will let everyone know in advance when that war starts, that this can happen. This is how we've handled conflicts with updates and wars in the past. So this is how we're going to handle it now, right? So long and short of it is, if another war starts, it will probably have a tweaked win condition where the victory points will be reduced if it conflicts with the update rollout. So there's that. And this is a cool one, but we won't get too far into it yet. We are going to be doing a special stream, kind of to celebrate a bit, because this is Devstream 100. We were originally going to cram this special stream, which we're calling the retrospective stream, into this one, but there was just too much to cover in this stream. We decided to separate out into a separate stream, but we will talk about that later, closer to the end of the stream. So
very excited about that.
I will leave that alone for now. So there was something so this is an important thing that I want to cover. Because 1.0 is happening this year, again, we're still many months away from it. I've been getting a lot of questions lately about this over months, and I wanted to take the opportunity for us to answer the most common questions that we've heard, to make sure that everyone knows what to expect, right? So the biggest one is, how will Foxhole 1.0 be different from the game right now? And the answer that I've been giving every time is, it won't be too different, right? So there won't be a big change between now and 1.0. The amount of change, if you want to imagine in your head, is probably the amount of change you saw between Arms Race update and the Winter Army update, right? So the amount, it will be much like a big update. So when 1.0 comes, it will, for example, it'll be like the summer update, right? And there's going to be new features. There's going to be new content, and it's gonna feel like business as usual, right? It's not gonna feel like this special point in time in the project. It's literally, if we didn't put the 1.0 label on it, it would just feel like it's nothing, because the changes needed to get to 1.0 have already happened. The change needed to get to 1.0 is not at one point in time. It's not for one update. It's been happening for the last 4 years in early access, right? So the work has been done. Most of it has been done already, and now it's just a matter of slapping the label on, right? How will development change after 1.0, right? So, again, not going to be too different. It's just going to keep on going. We have already plans for what we have a pretty good idea about what's going to be coming in the next 2 big semi-annual updates. So that this is like the next 2 updates that are going to be the scale of Winter Army. We already have sort of like a roadmap there, that we're going to go through. So it, again, it's gonna be, the next year is sort of going to be like the last year, right? So that's kind of what to expect there. Like, we're not going to change things. We're not going to scale down on the updates. We're not going to, the show is going to go on, right? So, and there's a lot of really cool things that players have been asking for over the years, like crazier ideas of what can go into Foxhole, that I think we're really excited to explore now that, we're kind of doing less of the experimental stuff. Now that the basis of the game is more set, we can kind of now be like, okay, now let's finally go do that cool thing that people have been asking for so long, right? And I think you guys can think of a few things there in terms of what I'm talking about.
What if all they want is loot boxes in the game?
That's the thing, Julian.
Well, then maybe you're going to be disappointed. That's the answer to that question.
Yeah. Why even go 1.0 if it's not changing? So, yeah, I get this question a lot. Why even go 1.0, right? And I think that for us, what it represents is, we're not going to be making large experimental changes to the game as often as before, right? So throughout early access, we made big architectural changes to the game. Like, we went from square regions to hexagon regions. We went from, if you guys were here for many years, we even went from like no world conquest, right, to world conquest. We went from having these invincible invincible port bases to like those no longer be in the game. Like we made giant architectural changes, and as you notice over the last year, even though we have made changes, those sort of big things are not moving as often anymore. And now that the game is more stable, we feel that the game is ready for a more general audience, right? Because we don't want to bring in a lot of players and then we're changing things from underneath them. It's not, that's not an ideal situation, right? I'll try to get through these things faster. So another question I get is, will Feature X finally be added at 1.0? Hey, I feel like 1.0, we can't go 1.0 unless X feature is in the game, right? I get this question a lot. And again, it's the same answer. I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but it's like, the answer is maybe it'll come in some update in the future, right? So it might not be 1.0. It could be the next winter update. It could be the next summer update. And a good example of this is the regiment system, right? So players have been asking us to implement a clan system in the game for many years because they were tired of putting the tag on their Steam name. And, it's not like that came at 1.0. It just came in some update. And in the same way, a lot of these other things that you might be expecting is going to arrive in the same way. It's just going to come in an update, right? So new player experience. I think this is one area that we hope to, we feel like maybe 1.0 might be a good excuse to improve on some of the things that will make it easier for new players, like localization, some improved actually just helping new players get into the game more easily. But again, I don't think there's going to be this like revolutionary change there, right? I think this would be a nice excuse to improve some of those areas of the game, and then some of it might come after, right? So a couple of more specific things here. Will the price of the game change? And the answer is yes. Most likely, we will see an increase in the price of the game, just to support the long-term development of the project. And like we've always said, we're going to stay true to our policy to not sell any microtransactions in Foxhole. So that, this is something that's not going to impact any existing player of the game, right? So nothing's going to change on our end. You're not going to have to, we're not going to sell you microtransactions or anything. It's just more that now that the game is out of early access or it will be, and we're not experimenting as much anymore. And the game has grown a lot, and we hope to grow it in the future. So the price will change, but again, this is not going to impact any existing player of the game, right? Whatsoever. Finally, the big one: will ranks be reset at 1.0? We talked about this. I casually mentioned something a while back, and I think everyone went into a panic. So just to clarify this a bit, will ranks be reset at 1.0? So there isn't an intention to reset the rank that you have now. I think what we are working on is new types of ranks and some changes to the rank system, but we're going to work to preserve the ranks that exist now in some way so they can exist in tandem with whatever new system that we come up with, right? So that's sort of...
I would assume everybody would want a rank reset, Mark.
Julian, you're assuming all the things that,
Julian, people like you. If you keep saying those things, people are going to start hating you so quick.
So someone in chat said, just reset them. Who cares? But I think that discounts the fact that there's been 4 years of people working on some of these ranks. So a lot of people have been, working really hard on the ranks or had these ranks for a really long time. So I think there has to be some way to carry it over.
You know what? Someone needs to start a Reddit thread about that, and they can fight out in the comments.
There are a lot.
Okay, so let's get on to update 43 preview, right? So we're informally calling this the assault update, right? So we're adding a bunch of assault weapons, some vehicles, and some other cool things. But before we get into it, I want to show this very high-level roadmap first. And all this is saying is that our goal right now is to do 3 updates for Winter Army before we get to the summer update. So that's basically what we're going to aim to do. We'll see if we can get to 3. I would like to see 3, and that's the goal, right? So update 43 is going to be the first of those 3. So let's get into the meat of this. Update 43, right? First off, I think everyone's been asking for this one, right? Eric Clone's like,
no, they have.
Give me a normal submachine gun, right? So here it is. Here is the Colonial submachine gun, the Lion Claw, and this is its feature is that it's well-rounded, right? So I think Colonials just wanted a well-rounded submachine gun, and that's the story there.
Colonial bias there, giving them a well-rounded gun.
Yeah. So I don't know, Julian, if you have anything to add to it.
I was gonna say it's a bit of a beef boy for a submachine gun. It feels really like substantial, especially like if you like everybody in the Foxhole Discord knows how much I love the pitch gun, but this gun is a little like.
I was gonna say, the only thing I wanted to add was visually, I wanted it to be bigger than the pitch gun because the pitch gun's supposed to be a secondary slot gun. So that's my input on this one.
Yeah. Great. Next up is the Warden Heavy Submachine Gun, the Liar, right? So this is this weapon is unique in the sense that it is slow to get your aim initially, but the accuracy, the range, and the stability is surprisingly high for a submachine gun. So the expectation is that it's good if you're giving fire support from a fixed position, right? So it's not something you want to go out and like run and gun with, or anything like that. But if you're in a fixed position, it's going to be pretty useful. So it is a bit of more of a niche weapon, as opposed to, let's just send tons and tons of these up to the front. I imagine this, which along with some of the other weapons that we're going to talk about, are a bit other than the well-rounded submachine gun. is this is like a not well-rounded submachine gun? Let's put it that way. Yeah. All right, so we have the Colonial Assault Rifle. I think this was a fun one because it went back and forth several times.
Yeah, there's some development history on this one.
Yeah, so the big characteristic on this one is the very high ammunition capacity, right? So I believe the clip right now, the way it's balanced, is 40, which could change obviously between now and release as we bounce things. But it is a short to medium range assault rifle, right? So unlike some of the other assault rifles, which are more like mid to long range, this is a sort of a close quarters combat assault rifle. And it's very useful for, say hopping into a trench and like pretty much clearing out all the enemies out of it. It sounds cool. It's really fun to use. We were testing it out, Julian, just last week, and we felt like it obviously everyone's gonna look at this and be like, this is like a Tommy gun, right? And
no, they won't.
Even though we've taken some inspiration from it, for example, that's kind of how it feels, right? So yeah, you
can spray with this thing and it feels really fun. Just because you can it honestly like reminds me of the Al Capone in that movie that I can't, Scarface, where like you can kind of like recreate that in your mind, and it's it just feels fun to just kind of go off with this like larger this magazine. So cool. I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on it.
And here's the last of the weapons before we get to some explosives, which I think are going to be cool.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. This is the Booker Storm Rifle, and this is a burst, medium to long range burst assault rifle. The accuracy is high, so it is when first used, it does feel almost overly powerful, but the thing that reins it back in is it is slow to aim. So it is one of the slowest to aim weapons in the game. It's not as bad as a sniper rifle or anything like that, but it is slow to aim, so you can't just run around and hit people from far away. But again, if you're in a settled position,
behind cover and stuff.
Exactly. If you're behind cover, you can hit at range. It's just you can't be as mobile with this weapon. So this is another extremely not well-rounded weapon, but more special case, right? So yeah,
this is my favorite of the new batch.
Yeah. So what was just a question? What was the thought behind the magazine on this one, which looks a bit atypical from most of the other weapons?
First off, it's Warden, and I'm trying to come up with more and more funny ways that Wardens, more and more angles that Wardens load bullets into guns. But the base gun itself was inspired by the Hewitt rifle, which I'm sure a bunch of gun lovers in our community will know exactly what I'm talking about. It was a Canadian assault rifle that didn't make it into service because the war ended. And yeah, I thought it was cool, and we went from there with this one.
So it's a Canadian biased weapon.
Yeah, Canadian biased weapon. Yeah,
I think it's fair.
You're saying the Wardens are Canadians.
Correct.
I mean,
okay,
we're throwing that nationality in the mix too.
All right, so the torpedo explosive, right? So
such high detail on this one.
I put this out as a teaser, and like I botched it because I realized after that, like, it wasn't much of a teaser. Like, people guessed it. It was like some
immediate.
No one guessed this.
Yeah, like some of the other ones were not obvious, and people were like drawing tanks around things that weren't even tanks. But this one was like guessed right off the bat. I think some people thought it could have been a double barrel anti-aircraft
kind of thing.
Yeah, like an FMG type of thing, or they were posting references of tanks. But no, it is it's a unique explosive. It's obviously it's based off of a Bangalore. It's not called a Bangalore in the Foxhole universe. It's a Hydra's Whisper. And it is a unique. It actually is a very unique explosive in the sense it's the only explosive in the game that can destroy obstacles, like mines and tank traps and barbed wire. And it's really cool because it actually explodes. It triggers 3 explosions in a line, so when you place it down, you can reach areas that are a bit further out. Unlike the contrast of this is the satchel charge, where you kind of have to be right on the spot where you plan it, and it takes long. This Hydra's Whisper it's much faster to place down, and you can kind of you can run in a combat situation, or at least the way that we're trying to balance it is that you can run in a combat situation, you can place this down, and you can take out some barbed wire, right?
You can also kill yourself real easily with it. The first time I tried it, I blew myself up, and I thought I was far enough away. I thought I was safe, but I was not.
Same here. Yeah, I did the exact same thing, 100%.
It's possible that some of that has been tuned since that test, but hey, yeah, you need to be careful with these. But yeah, it would be, in such a situation, getting close enough to a barbed wire and you spending the many seconds with a wrench is just not practical. You can use this in those situations. So I'm really excited about this one. This one is really cool. And I want Julian for you to talk about it in a moment. It's gameplay wise, it's an AT grenade. So it's like, think of it, the way how it functionally works is it's kind of like the HE grenade now, except it goes further. The range is somewhere in between an HE grenade and, let's say, a frag grenade. So it's sort of in that mid-range distance, and it explodes on impact, and it deals anti-tank damage. And I think that this is going to be a great infantry weapon for fighting tons and tons of falchions or whatever other colonial tanks might might be out there.
Are there any other colonial tanks? I don't see them. Yeah, this was based off of a landmine / grenade that was popular. Not popular, right after Dunkirk, when Britain lost all of its cannons and anti-tank equipment in the retreat. They came up with a whole bunch of wacky grenade types and ways for infantry to deal with armor that wasn't necessarily a conventional gun. So after kind of reading into that and all of those, we came up with this flask grenade to deal some anti-tank damage. Yeah.
Cool. What can you drink from it?
People on the chat are talking
corrosive chemicals.
They're talking about how it's maple syrup and HB confirmed.
Yeah, it's maple syrup. That's you get the tanks all, like the tracks all stuck.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the boring stuff. Tanks, right?
Boring.
Yeah, so a part of this was this is still work in progress in the sense that we feel like the end game, we want to fill it out with more tanks, and our goal is to get more variety in there, so the station doesn't always boil down to like X tank versus Y tank, and that's the most important thing at the end of the game. We're not going to be there yet, even after update 43, but it's a step forward, so at least there will be more, and we're hoping in the coming months we will be able to get to that point where the end game won't always look the same, right? I think that's one of, I can see that as I take that as like a valid criticism, that, and one of the weaknesses of the tech tree as it exists right now is that at the end of the war, if it reaches that point, it just kind of feels like it boils down to these few things, right? So that's a problem that we're working on solving. So the first tank here is the Spatha. Was that the correct pronunciation?
Yep.
I screwed it up earlier. The Spatha, right? So this is the non-mass produced version of the Falchion, essentially.
This is the Chad Falchion.
Yeah, so it's the high quality. It shares a base, but the turret is completely different, and it uses a new gameplay modifier or feature that is going to be on multiple vehicles moving forward, which is the high velocity gun, right? And what this does is it's a damage multiplier on what the payload usually deals, right? So 40 millimeter ammo usually deals a certain amount of damage, and every weapon or vehicle in the game that uses it deals that damage, but we can vary it now with this high velocity gun. So this will deal more damage than conventional your light tank, right, or a Falchion. And some other things is this tank is a little more durable, not by a huge margin, but a little more durable than a Falchion. So
the turret's got an extra ring of armor around it. So
yeah, so our goal here really is like, okay, if mass production is a feature, but if you're to look at some other tanks in the game that have two variants, we might have like a more defensive half track, and then we have a more standard one, right? In this case, we have the mass production assault tank, and then we have this high velocity gun assault tank, right? So yes,
I like the mass production versus kind of normal production also opens us up for a lot of options in the future. Even with like existing vehicles, we may go back and check out, like, is this, I don't know, the basic armored car worth mass production versus its superior tracked version or something, like stuff like that we can consider. And same with this high velocity concept of like long barrel, faster bullet, more damage kind of thing.
So mass production battle tank is what you're saying.
Yeah. Only.
Cool. So yeah. So moving on to drum roll. I don't know. Let's just not show the Warden tank.
Yeah, no, we're not showing the Warden tank.
Colonial bias, obviously.
Yeah, it's colonial bias.
Yeah. So
actually, we just decided to cancel it.
Yeah, we're canceling
You're
it
just
right
deleting
now.
the wardens from the game. That's
This
easy.
is how our meetings go.
So instead, we're showing 3 more images of the Spatha. How about that?
Yeah, that's a consolement prize.
Okay, so moving on to the
Long-awaited.
Long-awaited. This one has had a history, but maybe we'll talk about that in a moment. Just to get through the basics of it, it's a Warden tank destroyer. It is a 68 millimeter gun, but it also has a high velocity barrel, and it deals a lot of damage. It deals you can we'll show you in a live demo, and obviously things are still going to be balanced, but the general gist of this tank is that it is slow, not very agile. Reverse is quite slow, so there are a lot of downsides to it as well, but it deals a lot of damage, and the armor is because of the way that it's sloped, it does have a buff to the chance to bounce, right? So it has a higher than usual chance to bounce versus other tanks. So its use case is not so much, hey, let's take it and try to steamroll the enemy. Its use case is more to park it in a defensive position, and it'll be very tough for a tank column to try to get past it, right? If you try to drive this out on its own, you're going to get flanked, and it's not going to do very well in that situation. But in a well-defended choke point, it's pretty much, it'll be very hard to get past this, right? So, yeah.
Because I said I'd say it, this is the tank in the promo art that I can't believe no one picked out that there was a tank in the promo art that you guys
absolutely
might have guessed that. So you totally missed your opportunity, because we totally would have told you right away what the tank was had you just asked what the mystery tank in the promo art is.
Yeah.
So you really screwed up on that one.
Versace guy makes a really good point. We're really Foxhole biased, and all these updates are for Foxhole and not Fortified. What's wrong with us?
Yeah, that's true.
That came out of left field.
I
was like, "What are you talking about?"
I wasn't here for Fortified, so
yeah,
I'm Foxhole biased.
So what's the idea about that fuel tank at the back?
Fuel tank. That's just a beefy engine component or muffler.
So it can be.
It's got a thick butt.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we can move on to the live demo if there is nothing.
Did you show the 3 variants of it? Yeah.
Right on.
The 3 images of it.
Yes, the 3 renders. Let's just I feel like whenever we get to the second slide, there always needs to be like a 10-second pause or something so that we'll have time to like.
I like how the barrel came out on this one. It looks mean.
This actually evolved from an earlier tank design that we ended up pulling from the game.
That the community also never wondered what it was or found a secret icon of it. Or
I believe originally this was the cane, and then things changed.
Cool. Let's move on to some other features. Actually, you know what? I just forgot about a whole section of the stream guide.
Let's go to the live demo.
Let's go to the live demo. Just skip over like 25% of the okay, so there's other cool stuff coming in Update 43. And I actually think some of this stuff, besides, the content's always exciting, but I think some of these other features are kind of like the hidden gems that I think often have a larger impact on the game. So Squadron Regiment map post. So this is expanding on the tools, the communication tools in the game. We wanted for you to be able to put down map posts that only members in your squad can see, right? And even further, be able to put down a map post that only your regiment can see. So when you create a map post, there's a drop down now where you can select what type of map post that you want to make, whether it's public, squad, or regiment, and it works. Other than that, it works just like any other map post. But I really hope we can continue iterate on the communication tools, because it's something that players are always asking for, and we're always looking for new ways that we can help you guys work together in your groups, right? So um, moving on. So this is just a huge list of miscellaneous improvements, and I'm just going to rapid fire through them. So, this is always mentioned. A while back, we did put in a 60 hertz frame rate cap for certain technical reasons, but we're working now to lift that so that you can set it to higher than 60 hertz. You can kind of choose your frame rate cap in the options menu. We also have added improved animation interpolation. So what this translates into is, if you guys notice when you're playing the game, if you're rotating the crane or you're turning your tank turret, and in a few other cases, sometimes it gets really choppy, right? So we've implemented an interpolation system so that those animations should look a lot smoother now, right? So you guys know what I mean. Like you're using crane, you're placing down like an emplacement, and it just kind of like skips across the screen. That should be smooth now. Improve map frame rate. So this is something, if you guys been noticing, especially with the larger wars, I'm sure you've noticed that scrolling across the map is not as smooth as it used to be, and a lot of this is just a function of, well, there's more players playing the game, there's more map posts, there's more things on the map. So we've done an optimization pass there because we think it's important that on top of adding all the contents and the features, that we're also always improving these small things as well, right? So this is another little quality of life improvement there. Dedicated large item drop key. So this is a small thing where when you're holding a large item right now, if you left click, it will either submit it or drop it. But there's cases where it might be ambiguous, like you want to drop it, but you're next to a structure, so it submits it. So instead, we've added a dedicated large item drop key. It's gonna be V by default, and we're kind of moving the default functionality. V right now is the calls wheel. We're moving that around to something else, but this is all reconfigurable, so you can change it to whatever key you want. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to. It's just the option is there now that if you want to be more specific in your intention, you can use this key. Fire pits can be built on seaport docks. This is a big feature request that we heard about, so players can defrost a ship if they've left it at a seaport during a storm. Stockpile logs now support shippable structures. This was a small thing that was missed that players have mentioned over and over again. So again, we're finally putting that in. Ammunition rooms now provide a power connection. So there are players in this update that were trying to build ammunition rooms into their storm cannons, but they had problems. There's a couple of annoyances, like they weren't able to, ammunition rooms weren't passing through a power connection, and they also just were restricting the storm cannon itself from being built. So this is an issue that we have resolved. So now you can put ammunition rooms in your 3x3 grid of your storm cannon. We're also obviously working on game balance, and there's just a whole bunch of other bug fixes, tweaks, and stuff that we're just not even going to mention here. To get through a bit more things here, I will go through this quickly because I realize now that the stream is going on much longer than I thought.
We're cutting it off in 5 minutes, even if there's not no time for the live demo.
Yeah, so basically, there's we've done some optimizations to Foxhole services, which is one of the servers that is able, that every player, it handles things like travel, it handles things like chat, and we've done some optimization here to fix some of the issues that we start seeing when thousands of players were playing the game. For example, if you noticed in the last couple of war starts, when the war starts, some players were able to travel in, other players had to wait 5 minutes. That's all been resolved now with these optimizations. So thousands of players can all charge the gates at once, and we won't have those problems. Fingers crossed. The general stockpile performance optimizations. This is sort of improving network performance when you're close to stockpiles. before stockpiles were sending clients lots of data, so we've done some optimizations to minimize that data. So this is not something that might be an obvious thing, but in general, over time, if let's say there's a huge battle close to a bunch of stockpiles, that network performance there should be improved. There's these last two things. I won't get too far into it. Just basically fixing some bugs with state transitions, and also with the holes in the landscape. Those class of bugs. We did fix some of it in the last update, but we realized there were more cases, and now we're hoping with this next pass we're going to be able to resolve much more of that. So there's the technical improvements, and now I think it's the live demo finally. So let's get on with this. Change windows.
So what do you want to show?
All right, so I think I just want to show off everything that we talked about once. So this doesn't have to be long. So we'll start with the submachine guns.
This is the reliable one.
Yes.
Ooh, look how normal it is.
And then here is the Warden, the new Warden submachine gun. So this is the one where the aim is quite slow. But once the aim is settled, it is fairly accurate, right? So it's just that initial aim takes quite a bit of time. You know what? I want to go straight to the Booker just because I feel like,
all right,
this is one of the cooler weapons in this update. So again, this one is very slow to aim.
Get behind cover.
But once you're settled, or if you're behind cover and it settles really quickly, it's extremely accurate. And moving on to the Dusk. Cool. This one is cool. Let me
now to run and gun.
It's also one of the, I think it's the fastest rate of fire gun other than the Warden machine gun. So we can see that the rate of fire is pretty insane on this. Great. I guess we can...
Explosives next.
Yes.
However, will we clear out all these landmines and stuff? Deploying it, and then running away.
Yep, you got that mine, so I can put it here. And so another one of the things is Bangle or Hydrus Whispers are going to deter players from spamming their barbed wire too close together.
Watch out.
All right, and finally,
do we need a tank for this one?
Yeah. Did you want to get that?
Yep.
Great. All right.
The target.
Why don't you grab some grenades and
Yep.
throw it at it?
And I missed.
Your aim is terrible.
Way to whiff.
Yeah.
It's Warden biased. You made the colonial aim worse.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So now we have the. Do you want to spawn
Oh yeah.
the two
Which
vehicles?
tank first?
Let's do the colonial tank.
There you go.
Oh. Oh.
Are you encumbered?
I may be.
So it seems like a lot of people are chatting about this stuff in the chat. You guys will get a chance to get your hands on this in Death Branch. Don't
Oh,
worry.
yeah.
Actually, why don't you let me
When is
drive?
it? Sure.
And you shoot. Switch spots. Okay, let's go. I actually was really advocating for to see this variant earlier, because I personally like the design of the turret a lot more than the falchion. So
This was Mark's vote for the mass production variant.
Yeah.
Like way back at the very beginning of all of this.
Cool.
And I'm out of ammo.
Okay, let's drive over to the other.
Nope.
Okay,
Going
let's
where?
drive this one up. Let's get one of the Warden tanks here, and then we'll drive it up the road.
Cool. Up this way?
Yeah.
There it is.
So I'll drive again.
Yeah.
You...
And see the amazing speed. Oh yeah.
I love driving this tank around. I don't for some reason this tank like tickles me in a way that some of the other ones don't.
So that was 2 shots.
Finish it off. Finish him.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. That's not powerful at all.
Yeah, that's not OP.
Actually, just like how it feels, like you can really feel the weight of the tank.
Yeah.
Driving around. So.
That's what I'm saying. There's something about it that just feels really crispy. I don't know what it is.
Great. I think that's it. I think
Good,
that's
because I just ran out of ammo.
Alright. I want to get out. Alright. Let's shut this down. And I think we're just actually let me switch back to because there was a few more things, I think.
There is another
Have we said when the dev branch is?
I will talk about that in a moment, but Matt,
Cool.
is it back to the slides?
No.
Okay. Maybe something went wrong here. Let me see here. So there we go.
Did that not work?
How about that?
What do you-
How's that now?
Does Discord
Is that-
work or what?
Professional.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Twitch
It's just
casting.
I'm like literally trying to
back on the
stop the
slide.
stream and it's like not working. But anyway,
Everything good?
yeah, everything's
Good
great.
to go? Okay,
It's fine.
great.
Discord is just
Okay, so yeah, actually now is a good time, Julian. I realize this is the end. So the dev branch, we will get it out soon. Hopefully within the next couple days. But again, I want to mention this will likely be a longer dev branch. We're probably going to see, unless the wars now go on for a very long time. there's a good chance we're going to see another war start, which will then end on the lowering. If that war conflicts with the rollout, we will go with the rule of lowering the victory points at that point if there is a conflict. So again, don't expect this update to be out by the end of this week or anything like that. We're going to be spending more time in a dev branch fixing more bugs, putting in more tweaks. So on that note, HB.
Yeah. So because this is our 100th dev stream, and there's a lot of new players. There's a lot of veterans. We're like moving on to the 1.0 release and all that. And then we thought it would be a really cool thing to do a retrospective on the game, like see where we started, show some behind the scenes, and until where we are now. This is not going to be a development stream in the sense that we're not going to be talking about new things to the game. So it's going to be a special separate stream in which we can have a little bit more fun, a little bit more time. Like that's why it's a little bit later at night as well, so we can have some drinks, talk a little bit about the process of developing Foxhole, showing you guys some behind the scenes of some of the stuff that we did, reminiscing about the stuff that happened in the game. And I hope you guys join us. I think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be way less formatted than this is, like with us having all the slides and everything. It's gonna be way more off the cuff. But hopefully it's gonna be fun. It's something that we wanted to do for a while now. Something that I'm really interested in doing.
Wait, it's supposed to be less formal? I bought a suit and a green screen.
Yeah, I thought we were wearing
Well, I'll take out my suit then as well. So it's black tie now.
Yeah.
Everybody in chat, I expect to see pictures. Otherwise, you will be removed.
Yeah. So it's not, again, just to be very clear, this is not gonna be a development stream. We're not gonna be talking about new things being added. We're literally talking about the past of the game, or where we started, where we're now. So hopefully, some of you are interested, and some of you show up. I hope for a lot of you. That would be really cool. But
But if not, we'll just talk to each other.
We're just gonna be drunk on stream alone, so that's fine.
Great. Okay, so
wait, when is it?
It's next week.
There.
No, it's not next week. Sorry, in 2 weeks. It's gonna be at 5 p.m.
Awesome.
And if there is a change in the date for any reason, we will announce it beforehand.
I feel like this one should be pretty easy to hit. So.
But
it's us.
Good caveat. Very good.
Maybe
caveat.
I don't know.
That's
the whole population of Ukraine decides to play the game. I don't know, and then suddenly our servers exploded. We don't know.
Come on, cool. Ukraine.
Okay, and then finally the Q&A. You want to go?
The other thing, we're gonna start a Q&A right now. So for the people that are joining in for the first time, and there was a lot of people that were complaining, "Oh, we all know this information when we're talking about 1.0." There's a lot of new players, so we always do a Q&A at the end of the dev stream. Here's the thing: usually, there's a lot of questions that are like just bombarded on the chat, and that gets really, really hard to read. We're still gonna keep answering questions from the chat, but I'm gonna try, and this is an experiment, and it might not work. I'm gonna try for the next dev stream. I'm gonna open up a Reddit thread, and then you can actually ask your questions beforehand, so we can answer them live on stream. This way, you can have a more not a longer question, but at least a more thought out question, something that usually is not tied to what we discuss, obviously. But we have time to actually screen them, and then you don't have to repeat them in chat. And we're gonna look at them beforehand, so we're gonna choose some questions beforehand. Your best chance to ask them questions. We're still gonna take questions from the chat, like we're gonna do right now, particularly for things that are relevant to what we discuss on the dev stream. But we're gonna be cracking down on people spamming the same question over and over and over again. We're not going to be answering them. We're just going to be clear. Like, if you spam the same question 10 times in a row, we're not going to answer them, even if it's a good question. If the question is a paragraph of the whole size of the screen that we have to read, we just don't have time, even if it's a cool question. So keep them short, keep them concise, and no, we're never going to answer every question, but we're going to try.
I really want to emphasize what HB was talking about. Keep your questions concise and keep them polite. Don't be a dick, because we actually get a lot of questions like that, and I just won't answer them. And then people get mad because I don't answer them. And then, but you have to ask your question in a cordial way.
As an example, I'm just going to give an example. Perfect question. Versace saying, why hasn't Ping Pong Masters for my Android phone been updated since 7 years ago? That's a great question for Mark. Why hasn't Ping Pong Masters been updated?
It's very polite too. So
it's very polite.
I actually have the answer for that. I haven't actually figured out the ending of the
lore,
the
is very
epic lore
complex.
of Ping Pong Masters, and so it's really me holding everything back, honestly.
So blame Matt.
It's a very, very hard story to write, and it just needs more time. It's George R. R. Martin has nothing on me. Okay, so
but for real, now let's go.
There's been a question that's come up like a lot ever since we started showing things, and this is going to be sort of in two parts. So the first thing I'm going to say, because there's a lot of people who didn't maybe understand the live demo, but that was like a controlled environment with like only just like showing all of the features. Play it for yourself in Dev Branch, mess around with them, get it in a real environment, do some real testing yourselves. We were just showing them in a real environment, so it's not actually reflective of like exactly how it's going to work in like a real environment. I feel like there's some confusion of like that was like a controlled environment.
Secondly, was true that they're real and that
so anyway, so like we do this.
I like the live demos because they because in the past, like just to show how we evolve these streams, like there was a point in time where we would just show a piece of concept art and be like, hey, this thing's coming. This thing's coming in a week. Right? So now we like to get things further along, right?
Whatever happened to the oil well drawing that I did?
Going back to
I just want to spend sorry.
I just want to spend like a moment on it. It's like going back to what I said at the beginning, like all the change going from early access to 1.0 has been happening, right? So now we like to get to the point where we have something in our hands. It's like it's very complete, other than obviously bugs and like balance and things of that. But it's feature complete, I would call it, and we can actually show it off on the stream, which I think is great, right? So
to that point, there's been a lot of questions of people asking because of the Hydra's Whisper, is there going to be something equivalent for Wardens because it removes obstacles in a more controlled.
Can we answer with a sad trombone sound effect?
So like in this update, there won't be an equivalent. But again, if you looked at some of the other things we've added in Tech Tree in the past, when we add in a new mechanic, we'd like to at some point have that mechanic working for the other side. It might not be the exact same thing. Like as an example, we might for the mortar half track, that mortar on a self-propelled platform made it into the form of a light tank for the Wardens, because Wardens were asking about that for a very long time. So in the same way, the special capability of being able to destroy obstacles might end up on something else. It might not even be explosive. Maybe it'll be a vehicle, right? Maybe it'll be something else, right? So our long-term goal with the Tech Tree is to provide many different options so that both sides are able to do most things, but not in exactly the same way, right? Because that's the point, that we want the factions to feel like they're unique, right? So we don't want like a mirror. We don't want to give the Warden just here's an explosive that behaves the same way, right? We want to be like, hey, you can do this, but maybe it's completely different. And I think if we, I can think of a few exciting ways we can do that actually. And I won't spoil my thoughts, but Julian, I want to talk to you about it after. I have a good idea for that.
Okay.
The Blurrer asks, do you want clips or screenshots from players for the retrospective stream? HB?
Sorry?
Do you want clips or screenshots from players for the retrospective stream?
I mean, that would be cool if you have things that are from like the past. Like we, particularly in the very beginning, that would be cool. We don't promise to use anything in particular, and because we wanted to showcase a little bit of like behind the scenes, but we do if you want to send me some cool stuff that you might have, yeah, just DM me. You know what? Just DM me. But keep in mind that by DMing me these clips and snippets, you're allowing me to use them in that retrospective stream. So just keep in mind that we will show it. If we use it, we will show it to everybody that's on the stream. But yeah, by all means, DM me directly.
I lost the person who asked the question because the chat is insane. Oh, here it is. Jerman5 asks, is the flash grenade designed to be more of a repellent or something that actually destroys tanks?
It has a very unique feature that I don't know if it was written in the description of it. That, Mark, if you want to talk about it, its special attribute.
I actually missed that special attribute that you're talking about, but so why don't you go ahead so that I don't screw up what you're assuming that I'm.
Oh no, I didn't see it on the card, and I didn't know if we wanted it hidden or not. But it basically has a significant increased chance to track the tank that it hits. And it's pretty damn good at it. Let's just say that.
Julian is not good at it. That's what you guys need to understand.
So it's using the same.
The caveat is that you have to hit the tank. The challenge that I failed is that you have to hit the tank.
You have to hit the tank.
Yeah, no, I forgot that. I forgot about that detail. It uses a similar has a similar capability as the sticky bomb, right? So that's basically what Julian was referring to there. So it definitely, I think the closest equivalent, I'm going to butcher the name, is the Ignifist that the Clonos have, in the sense that it's a disposable anti-tank weapon, except that the advantage here is that you can be more agile with it, right? You can be running around as opposed to the Ignifist, which your movement is more restricted because you are holding something that is somewhat like an RPG light type of weapon, right?
You're not throwing the whole RPG at the.
You're not. Imagine that you just take the whole thing and just throw it at the tank. So yeah, it's. I like it. I feel like it has a unique feel, and when you get your hands on it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It feels like something that hasn't been in the game yet, which is really neat.
I will say, when I was working on it, it did a lot. It did a lot of work. You can do a lot with it. So I'm going to ask a question that I feel like would be really good on getting just kind of an official statement from us, because there's been lots of sort of random statements, but in different parts of the community. But this is from Antwin San. Is there any word on localization, since the French community is now quite large and growing?
Yeah, so we want to look into localization in the next couple of months. That was kind of one of those an excuse to do it at the 1.0 update. So the game does have, right now we have a system in place for localization. It's very old and we have to get it back up to date. But the intention is to localize as much of the game as we can. I think there's that's kind of it. That's kind of the answer, is hoping in the next half year or so we can get that done. So it's not something we can get done overnight. The game is really big, but there is a system in place, and we will
To that note, I think it's worth mentioning, just because we have a ton of new players, is that you're looking at a third of the entire dev team right now, and that we're 13 or 14 at this point.
No, not even. We're 12, right?
No.
Yeah,
we're literally 12.
We're at 14 people.
No, we're 14 in
Foxhole?
company, but for Foxhole, no.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're 12. But yes, he will come.
See. There's actually a lot of good questions, which is different than normal.
For one.
Because you yelled at them, Matt,
yeah.
and now everyone's in line.
I'm glad.
So there was I actually don't, I mean, there's so many questions that I'm losing some of the people ask them, so I apologize. But there are some concerns over the ISG and its strength against structures, especially now mixed with the Hydra's Whisper. Seems like the Colonials are kind of building up to be very like anti-structure. How will that be balanced going forward?
Yeah, we're definitely looking at. We're going to review the balance of the ISG, and I think in general the tripod weapons were, it was our first kind of like outing with the tripod weapons, and a lot of how it was tuned was that we felt like, due to its difficulty or presumed difficulty at the time when they weren't in the game yet, that players wouldn't bother with them, right? So they were probably a bit overtuned. So I think they will see a review. But I think to answer the other side of the question, anti structure, I think we'll just have to take a look at that. If that is if that's a feedback, we have to take a look at it. I was actually just talking to. Actually, this is an interesting topic. Okay, there's some meat here. So I feel that in the there are a pretty decent number of options on the Warden side with field cannon, the field mortar. They have the heavy armored car. But I was just mentioning to Julian the other day that there could be some more options in the mid tech tree. If you recall that, that conversation, Julian, and I do think that in terms of anti-structure in the mid tech tree, the mid war stage, wardens can probably use some more there. So that's a good point.
Update 34 or update 44 will be the mid tech tree warden update. So it's like assault. The first one's clean and assault, and the second one is mid war tech tree warden update.
We'll see. Yeah.
Here's an interesting question that I think we've addressed before, but there's been a huge influx of players. It's hard to know. This is from Parker Ciego. Why do Colonials get more open top compared to Wardens?
Why?
It is, and to follow that up, it is definitely a disadvantage for Colonials when it's snowing.
Yeah, so definitely on the gameplay side, we both factions do have strengths and weaknesses. So it's funny because someone just brought up that Colonials have a lot of great anti-structure options, but then they also have a lot of open top vehicles, which has its downsides, right? So there is an upside as well in terms of like the visibility side of things, but I think it comes down to, we don't want the factions to feel the same. We want them to feel unique, and therefore there's going to be strengths and weaknesses, and that's one of the strengths and weaknesses, I think. And we also try to tie that into the lore as well, right? So that's really the reason, right?
I'm gonna ask 2 more questions.
Yep.
Can I have a quick question for Mark?
Yes.
A lot of people asking about voice chat for the enemy team, and I answered a couple of them in the chat. It's a technical issue. Why it's not in the game anymore? We don't plan it to be permanent. We wanted to have local voice chat with the enemy team back, but there is a technical issue. We have to go back. We don't have to get too deep into it. But.
Well, yeah, we don't. I like to, because I like to talk about technical issues. It's because we've increased our voice platform supports up to 200 players per server, but our because of optimizations that we put in the game, we're actually able to go above 200 players now in a region. quite comfortably. So once that happened, then we started seeing problems with voice, which wasn't able to support that. So we have to look into redoing the way that we finding some strategy to either work with our current voice platform, or we have to integrate with a new voice platform or something else, right? But yeah, boils down to a technical
it's
issue.
an active problem.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeti Heavy asks, how much of the next update have you shown in this dev stream?
We have shown most of it, to be honest. We didn't talk about any of the game balance changes, so there is game balance review. None of that's shown. But in terms of features, that's it. This is, to be, I think another thing we should mention for all the new players is that our update cycle schedule is that we push out a big update, which was Winter Army. That was the last update, and those happen roughly twice a year, right? So every update is nowhere near that big. Right? So this is just a fraction of what that update is, and then we push out regular updates. We used to push them out once a month, and I think now I'd like to keep it around somewhat around that time period. It could be a bit longer, like depending on how things go. Obviously, with this recent player spike and us having to handle the scale, it kind of pushed back the schedule a bit. But we have regular updates in between the big ones, so you can expect a big update, and then a couple of 3 to 4 regular updates, and then a big update, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of what I think we're going to stick to that for the foreseeable future, right?
This is like I'm not going to count this as a question, but Developy asks, when will the next Foxhole Festival be? We're talking to Casper now, so I don't know yet. We don't have a date, but sometime in the nearish vicinity.
Keep in mind that Foxhole festivals are they were created by players, so we just like to support them.
Casper will be the one.
Yeah, so it's really cool, but the players are the ones that put it together, which is awesome.
Should we give them the banana car for the festival?
Don't give them a hope.
Mr. Sunships 1, can I please cast the 2v2 again? Well, yes.
All right.
Anyway, so last question.
Time for one more? Yeah. Let's do one more.
I want to find a good one, so you better have asked good questions.
I do have a question that I thought it was interesting. I don't know if it's a great one.
There was another one that I want to answer as well.
All right, 3 more.
Well, then there you go.
I guess
bonus round. Here.
See you guys.
Bonus round. No, let's do all 3. Matt, why don't you look for one? I want to answer. I got a request from Minibar. He was very politely asking about will we be adding more features or buildings into the building update in May, or just a rework of the known elements? So there's 2 things there. One is that the update in May is no longer a building update. I think some of that is going to be worked into the summer update. So any building related features that we had planned there are now going to be rolled into the summer update. And then the other part of it is that, yes, we are planning to add in some new features. I think the next part of the game that we're going to review is building. So I'm trying to set the most accurate expectations there. We're not going to throw everything out and redo it. So it's not like we're going to suddenly throw away the entire trench bunker system, but rather we're going to add to it, right? We're going to add new content. We're going to take a look at better. I think there's a lot of the building mechanics are kind of held together by duct tape right now, specifically with areas of I built things and then I want to undo it, or there are these weird workarounds that you have to employ to properly build up a good base. And I think that's where we do want to hear a bunch of feedback. It's I want to hear more feedback about those little things with building, not the big idea so much, but I want to hear more about hey, I was really trying to build this base here, and I put some trenches here and some bunkers here, and it was, I want to do this specific thing, but I couldn't because the user interface screwed me over, or things like that. I want to know about the day-to-day small issues. So if you're a base builder and you spend a lot of time on that stuff, that's the feedback that we would like to hear, is the small, like, quality of life things. Yeah.
My question was basically, it was actually a more encompassing question, because people always accuse us to being biased for one faction or to another, depending on what we are showcasing in the dev stream, right? And it was a question that actually was an interesting question, in my opinion. I didn't quite catch the name, and I'm gonna be paraphrasing. Considering that one of the factions, it is a little bit more oriented towards defense, and one of the factions is a little bit more oriented towards attack, isn't it a problem that in Foxhole, the game itself, you win just by conquering territory, so therefore you cannot win by defending, you can only win by attacking? Wouldn't that faction have a little bit, wouldn't that faction have an advantage? I wanted to just propose.
Yeah. So I think the most, the thing that I feel is misunderstood with that, right, is like, that is like not so much of a gameplay thing specific, it's more of a theming thing, right? So it's like, we're not gonna, it's not like we're like, hey, let's just give one side gameplay defensive stuff and the other side doesn't have it, right? I think that side needs to be balanced. But in terms of the lore and the theming, right, there's a story to tell behind all this stuff. And on the story side, we want to theme things according to that, right? So I think that's one of the most, like,
that doesn't mean they necessarily work
things,
gameplay wise, like
it's like we want to theme something as like, okay, this, and sure, like sometimes maybe some of that stuff will trickle down into some of the gameplay, but it's not our goal to be like, hey, let's give one side all the offensive stuff and the other side all the defensive stuff. Of course, we want that to be balanced, right?
And colonials get guns.
That is the rule.
Wardens can no longer shoot.
I also think it's just specifically for the stuff that we showed off today. The Warden tank was actually held back from the initial release, so like it's not we perfectly time it out. Like we're not picking and choosing an offensive thing for colonials and a defensive thing for wardens on purpose, if that makes sense. Like today's
it kind of worked
what
out
we showed
that
off
way,
today did. Yeah, it worked out that way. But like back when I painted the promo art, I thought that tank was going in the game at that update. And
that's why it's in the promo art.
It's why it was in the promo art. And then like a week later, Mark was like, yeah, we're pushing that back. And I was like, I just finished the art, Mark. What do you want to do?
You need to redo the art in 1 minute. So, that's how you do it.
But we knew it. We obviously didn't redo it because we knew the tank was coming. Anyway, so like it, yeah, there's a point to... we're not intentionally choosing offensive or defensive things to
So just kind of because I don't want to like take a really long question, and it kind of leads into what we were talking about. Driv4 asks, since we just mentioned lore, what's going on with it? Will there be more in terms of yeah, my head's been really down on other stuff for a little while, so we're gonna circle back around and do a whole bunch of stuff pushing towards 1.0, so you can expect a lot more.
Awesome.
And the next Chronicle of Ashes will be in the summer, like I promised. That's I think that's gonna be everything for us today. So look out for the next Devstream announcement. We're gonna have I'm really blurry. Look out for the next Devstream announcement. We're gonna have HB is gonna post a Reddit thread, and then you can ask questions there. And then we'll have a mix between questions that are asked in the chat, and we'll be favoring, just so you're thinking about it ahead of time, we'll be favoring questions in the chat about stuff that was announced during that dev stream, and then stuff that's in the Reddit thread. In the Reddit thread will be more about like ongoing stuff. That's pretty much how it's gonna go. HB.
Yeah, so thank you very much everybody that joined us once again. Thank you very much for all the new viewers that we have. All the new players, a lot of people from France, so merci. So we try to do this dev stream every 2 weeks, but it's not going to happen every 2 weeks anymore. It will still happen at 2 p.m. EST on twitch.tv/Foxhole Game. We're going to announce it prior. We're going to try to announce it at least a couple of days prior to the dev stream when it's going to happen. Once again, we're going to try to do them like when we have like minifone content. We're still going to be available. We're still going to be trying to talk to the community on Discord. And you've seen that sometimes we answer things on Reddit as well. And particularly, we're going to have the Foxhole retrospective in 2 weeks. I think that's going to be really, really cool. So join us to kind of like a celebration of where we started and where we're now. It's a small team doing it, so like everybody feels very committed to the game. I love it. We're going to be posting this dev stream on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, hi YouTube. We're going to be answering questions. At least we're going to try to answer a few questions on the comments below. And yeah, join the Discord. It's discord.gg/Foxhole. Posted on the subreddit. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of actually really good content that gets posted there sometimes, and a lot of really cool art that goes there. We try to do the community highlights. Hasn't happened this week, but hopefully on the next dev stream, we're going to have community highlights again. Love you guys. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Stay foxy.
Bye.